gon' make some moves tonight. Yeah, stand up, got something to prove tonight. So stand up, we ain't gonna plan tonight. We gonna take action on our dreams and fight, alright. We ain't gonna stall, never stop. We gon' make it all till it's out. We ain't gonna plan tonight. We gonna take action on our dreams and fight, alright.
Hey folks, happy Tuesday, or happy whatever day you happen to be watching this. My name is Scott Schertzen alongside Mr. Bill Akins, and welcome to MLS and USL Sports Writers React. We're talking a little bit about what's going on in the world of U.S. soccer this week. We'll talk a little NYCFC. We'll talk a little Lionel Messi. The MLS playoff schedule has been recently announced. I have some thoughts on that because they're shifting things up a little bit because of World Cup, and I don't think it's a bad idea. But before we get into all of that, sir, how the heck are you?
Doing good, Scott. How are you today? Glad to be on. A little bit of precipitation in the white frozen form today in Pittsburgh, but it's always well.
But you know what, though? We're almost in the home stretch. When we get snow at this time of year, I don't really mind it as much because you know that basically the crap is pretty much done. You know, The sun sets around 7 p.m., 7:30, so you know you're kind of on the home stretch of a little bit of this. I can live with it now. When it happens in January, it sucks ass.
Right, exactly. Yeah, no, it was nice. You're driving home in a snowstorm. It's like 7:30 last night. I was at my parents', and you're driving home and only 4 miles, you know. But it's like, wow, it's light out, you know.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Yeah, this is actually kind of my favorite time of year pretty much. But all right, so let's kick things off in this case here. When word came down last year that Alonso Martinez was going to be out for an extended period of time, is the way they put it delicately, because of the fact that he had the ACL injury during international duty. There was some massive concerns there about from an offensive standpoint, and they struggled a little bit out of the gate when it came to trying to get a little bit of offensive firepower, eking out a 1-1 draw on a penalty kick against the LA Galaxy. Since then, however, they have actually rolled offensively, scoring 10 goals in the last 3 matches, and led in a large part across the season by Nico Fernandez-Mercado, who is at the top, near the top of the leaderboards in goals at 4 goals so far in the first 4 matches, including a brace over the weekend. My thoughts on this are: does the team still need a striker, or is it something right now where you ride the hot hand? Maybe you let go of the window right now and reconvene a little bit later. Do you have any thoughts on that before I get on my own?
Well, I mean, let me move my microphone there. I mean, obviously Martinez had that serious knee injury. You wanted a, I don't know, you wanted a guy that has, that kind of has the same pace as him. I mean, no doubt it was a massive void losing him with that ruptured ACL. Nico has been, kind of that temporary unconventional striker that they've had in his absence. But I don't know. It just seems to me like they're missing. They're missing something. Transfer window. I think March 26, 2026, coming up. What, even like a week away, or 9 days away. Yeah. So you had that, what was it? Musa, what's his last name?
Musa Silla, the deal that Elton.
Yeah, Musa fell through, I think they need to get an established striker.
You still feel they need to? Okay.
I do. In order to maintain their competitiveness, I think they definitely do.
It's one of those things where I think sometimes you see this in sports where if you lose a dynamic player and the center of something massive, the rest of the team a lot of times will raise their own game, realizing that they maybe can't be a little short on stuff and they have to focus a little bit more on what needs to be done for the team. Yeah. So when Martinez went down, there was a lot of question, a lot of concern on the offense, especially given the fact that the first match, even the first 2 matches, were red card heavy. They had the advantage of the PK. They managed to eke out the draw against the LA Galaxy, and then through an early red card against the Philadelphia Union, they were able to score 2 goals there, including a late game winner as well. So there's been some question about whether this team was going to score offensively, but then pour on 5 goals last week 3 goals basically this past weekend. So you picked up 8 goals in the period of 2 straight matches. 3 goals, by the way, I should mention, did not come by way of an opponent red card, because as we talked about last week, Maxime Crepeau had that red card early on for Orlando that took him out of the running and caused NYCFC to just run up the score. But this week against a pretty solid Colorado team, it was 2-1 going into the season. They still picked up 3, and surprisingly, despite no Martinez, they have 11 goals on the season. And like I said, they lead the East offensively by a full 3 goals. Second is Nashville at 8.
Yeah, I mean, when you throw that stat out, it kind of deflates my argument. But
you're saying in fairness that maybe it's not going to be long-standing.
Correct. That's what I'm looking at. It's early in the season. I kind of my thoughts are I wonder if that offense is going to taper off. Mm-hmm. Maybe it won't. I don't know. But if I was, I mean, and from what I understand from the reports that I read, I mean, you obviously have a pulse on that club, being a writer. But from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, they are actively searching for somebody, and they're weighing out their options to add a little bit of more attack to their lineup. Am I off on that, or is
that's still 100% accurate? Todd Dunavant, Brad Sims, and everybody else involved, Pascal Janssen, they're still looking for a striker. But I guess in this case, given how hot things have been, just throwing the thought out there, and obviously for any NYCFC fans out here, let me know your comments on your side if you think the team needs a striker. Obviously, like you said, the window is closing, so decisions are going to have to be made fairly soon. But because of the fact the team is gelling so well right now, you could almost make the argument that maybe they should let it go right now and not bring in someone new, to take over and upset what's clearly working so far.
Well, and not to compare sports, but kind of similar situation. I mean, in Pittsburgh right now, hockey wise,
Mm-hmm.
Sidney Crosby has been out since the Olympics, when he took that hit from Radko Gudas in the Olympics, and he's been out with a pretty nasty knee sprain. You look at it, I mean, the team has elevated. Mm-hmm. Evgeny Malkin was out with a suspension, and comes back last night, and they put 7 goals on the board against Colorado. Similar situation. I mean, it's everybody's kind of elevated their game. I think when you look at NYCFC, it's kind of been a very similar situation for them as well. But I look at it like this, you want to maintain that competitiveness, because he's not going to be back for when are they saying he's going to be back? I mean, he's going to miss.
They're saying July, give or take.
Right.
They're saying possibly after World Cup. Maybe,
right.
I mean, it's possible. Maybe he can sneak in a few minutes prior, but the odds are probably not in that favor. I think they're just going to wait until after World Cup and start again.
Right. Yeah. You definitely don't want to rush him on something like that. But my thing is if I'm in the front office of NYCFC, I'm liking what I'm seeing, but I'm worried that you're not going to be able to maintain this surge of offense that you've had early in the season. That's all my concern would be. And I think if you can find somebody, you can make a deal. Like you said, the window's closing. You've only got a week and some change left to get it done. But I would be actively searching if I was them, just so you kind of got that just for lack of a better term, peace of mind,
mm-hmm.
That you're going to be okay. Because let's face it, I mean, you're going to need to make some hay while the sun's shining. Prior to this World Cup opening up, you're going to need to, I think if you're any club in the MLS, you want to kind of get yourself. You don't want to be a club that's way back in stand-ins, nearing the start of the World Cup, because you're just kind of dig yourself a hole.
Sure.
They haven't done that. They've been able to, as you stated, they're one of the better offensive teams in the East right now. I'm just like I said, I'm worried about them maintaining that.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's fair in this case, but it's a curious problem to have because I think a lot of people, myself included, never predicted this was going to happen.
right.
You know, again, the first match that they had in the season against LA, they managed one shot on goal, and that happened to be a PK. So there was some major concerns from an offensive standpoint. But since then, Pascal Janssen and the crew have basically brought this team up a lot, a notch or 12. And offensively, they have done exactly what they need to. They're a threat on the ball. You know, they're attacking constantly. Nico, I think, has found his niche a little bit there. Agostino Hayda's numbers have improved a little bit. Talus Magno got his first goal, which was the third goal of the match, but granted, put the nail in the coffin. So he got his first goal since he came back to NYCFC. So the team is firing for the most part on all cylinders. Now they have a big match coming up against Lionel Messi, who's likely most going to be playing for Inter Miami. We'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later, but that's going to be a big test at Yankee Stadium this weekend. But the advantage that they have right now is that they're so front-loaded when it comes to offensive matches that they're in a stretch where 8 of the 12 matches that they've got right now will be at home, whether Yankee Stadium or City, including 3 straight right here at Yankee Stadium before the 2-week break and then Citi Field start of April. So they have a lot of home games where they can kind of offset the loss of a striker. So your thought process about maybe it's not what, they can't maintain it has validity to it. But it's also, in this case, like I said, offset by the fact that they have so many home matches. And statistically in MLS, it is such a strange common quirk how much the advantage goes to the home team on an almost 2-to-1 ratio versus any other sport that's out there as far as home field advantage goes. So maybe just timing in this case worked out a little bit and they can ride it out, or who knows? Like I said, the window's still open for another week and change.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe they do stand pat. Maybe they do. Maybe they are fine with what they've got, and they want to, basically say, hey, we think we're okay. But on the flip side of that, if they do start to taper off, and you do start to, not able, you get losses, you get draws, you're not able to maximize your points, and you maybe fall in the standings. My worry would be that Alonso Martinez would see that and say, oh, okay, I was slated to come back in July. Well, now I want to come back earlier. I want to try to, I'm good, and
try to rush him a little bit.
Correct. And that's one of the things that would worry me. I don't know, for peace of mind, if I was in that front office, I would say, hey, let's try to go out and get somebody just so we maintain what we've been having thus far. Let's try to maintain what we've got. Maybe they do take that chance and they stand pat and maybe they'll be fine. Maybe they'll be fine. That's the risk you got to take. And unfortunately, when you run a franchise and a club, you have to make those tough decisions. That's why you get paid the big bucks, right? So.
Truth. Again, in this case, I guess also to your point on top of this is this team is still sort of in the same position where they're putting a lot of their eggs in one offensive basket here.
Right.
Nico being the new 9 for the most part here.
Yeah.
If something happens to him, you're right back in that same exact boat you were basically when Alonso Martinez went down. Can you strike twice with lightning? Twice? Maybe not. But in your case, I'm seeing it more and more from the perspective that you want at least insurance. Because with Nico being on the hot, such a hot start that he is, you got to figure he's going to cool off a little bit. You got to figure a lot of other teams are going to be focusing a lot more on keeping him away from the ball as much as possible. What's happened early on, maybe some of the other teams have taken their foot off the gas mentally a little bit right now because they didn't expect this kind of an offensive threat. Now they have footage on Nico. Now they have footage on the guy who scored 4 goals so far in 4 matches. So they're going to be looking at this from this perspective of how to slow him down and how to stop him, which means the offense could conceivably taper off, meaning they need a new 9, back to what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. He's an unconventional striker. I mean, let me ask you, do you look at him as a natural number 9?
He was brought in to be a 9, yes. And there was a lot of potential for something like this. Okay. He's in a good age right now. I think he was more designed to be, the plan was to keep him more or less on the wing and not as a striker because of Alonso Martinez. But again, in this case, situations being what they are,
had to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got a little bit of a striker by committee right now between Nico Tylus. Maybe you put Hannes Wolf up front, Agostino Hayda up front. So you don't have that bona fide blue lock number 9 there. And this is a committee type of setup, but it's worked, like I said, so far to the tune of 11 goals overall. And which I think is, if I'm not mistaken, is tied for second in all of MLS. Behind Vancouver, we're going to talk about in a second.
It's got to be Vancouver that leads Zach. I listened to that match against Minnesota on Sirius XM. Wow, you want to talk about a game? Usually I enjoy listening to the MLS on Sirius on radio, but boy, that was hard to. You go to the bathroom to take a whiz, and you come back and 2 goals have been scored.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Yeah, on this note, we may as well just flip right to Vancouver, because timing is perfect there. Yeah. But so far, Vancouver is off to an amazing start up there. Losing, obviously, in the Western Conference Finals last year, lit a fire under their ass because 12 points right now in 4 matches, only 1 goal given up. They have a goal differential of 13 right now. 14 goals scored, 1 allowed so far. Yeah. One of the only 2 teams left that basically are straight 4-0. LAFC is also the other one. But offensively speaking, this is a strong, strong team right now.
Yeah. I mean, so far a very historic start for them as of March of 2026. They're 4 wins. I mean, you're getting a lot of things. You're getting. I think Brian White has been amazing for them.
5 goals, yeah.
This last game, Sebastian Berhalter, my God, I mean, he was just scored 2 goals, had a couple of assists, was just all over the field against Minnesota, and just they've been amazing. They've been amazing. They've had a busy schedule to start. But this team has showed a lot of resilience and just an absolutely exciting team so far to watch. And I agree with you. I mean, I think losing last year, kind of lit a fire under their ass. They wanted to come out and say, hey, you know what? We want to establish ourselves early on. We know we're a good team. We're coached well. We have, they have a good fan base at home. And they've been taking advantage of it thus far, but I'm very shocked. Not shocked. I mean, I knew they were going to be good. I didn't think that they would be, I didn't think they would be as good as they are. I mean, just scoring goals left and right.
Sure. So, yeah, and like you said, Brian White, his 5 goals leads the league right now too.
Right.
Now the next match that they've got tomorrow, the next match they got coming up is. They got a lot of home matches coming up. I'm looking at this right now. All the way through the month of April, they got 5 straight home matches, including NYCFC as it happens. So they got San Jose, Portland, New York, Kansas City, and Colorado. And then after that, they got 5 matches on the road coming the month of May. That's going to be their real test. It's not so much what's happening there. It's going to be what's happening in the month of May. And then when they come back in July, they've got more matches on the road too. So it's going to be something where they've got a good run right now that can make a lot happen. But come the month of May, that's going to be a little bit more of a test.
Yeah, it definitely will. And I use that phrase, making hay while the sun's shining. I mean, it's a prime example of this team. They've just, they've and whenever you start the season off the way that they have, it gives you a little bit of cushion, whereas you're not as pressured. You dip a little bit in the standings. You'd like to think that you're a team that can bounce right back and get right back in it. And when you kind of have the start that they have, it allows you a little bit of a cushion,
Fair. So, yeah. And like I said, in this case, that's a great advantage right now. If we look at for a split second, I'm going to swing over here just for the fun of it. Let me go to a smaller window this way, see what we can do. Current playoff standings right now per playoffstatus.com. The LA Whitecaps right now have an 84% chance of making the postseason right now, and tied with LAFC for first place overall, with a 17% chance of actually being first place. So if you look at the standings right now from a purely playoff perspective, It is going to be neck and neck all the way down the line between Vancouver, LA, and even San Diego.
Right.
You know, I'm loving what the Earthquakes are doing. Really, when it comes to Major League Soccer, if you're on some line of like I-5, you've got basically a really good team right now. You know, I'll even throw the Galaxy in there as well. But it is exciting to be basically in the I-5 era when it comes to soccer. My God, it
is. I mean, even Seattle. Seattle has been, but and I'm very, very, very surprised with San Jose. I know it's still early in the season, but a decent club and long overdue. They've had it rough for a while, and it's nice to see them, finally,
oh my God,
up there and sitting in fourth. I know Landon Donovan has to be happy.
Yeah.
Seeing his old club starting to rise a little bit. In the standings. So
they had a lot of good moves last year, bringing in Bruce Arena, Christian Ramirez. I think I'm trying to remember offhand who they brought in last year, but it was something that gave that city a little bit of light and excitement. They've obviously taken the step up a little bit, but it's going to be fast. It's going to be more fascinating to watch the West this year than the East by far, because you have so many strong teams there. You have right now, Miami notwithstanding, the MLS Cup goes through the West. Goes through I-5 somewhere.
Absolutely.
And I think that's going to make it really exciting. And you're going to have you have two matches between San Jose and Vancouver in the period of 6 weeks. Vancouver's playing LA. You have all of these matches that are going to be coming up in this case. And it's going to be a lot of fun to watch what happens. They're going to tear each other apart.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, I agree.
But like I said, when it comes to Vancouver right now, they're off to the start they needed to basically be at after the loss last season in the Western Conference Finals for sure.
Listen, this league's in a good place right now. I think having the World Cup is going to bolster that as well. But and I hate to sound like a broken record, but this team or this league is they're in the top 10 in the world, which is I think a lot of people don't really understand how important that is. There's a lot of leagues in the world. This is the most, the biggest sport in the world by far, and they're in the top 10 in the world in leagues, which there's something to be said about that.
But it still struggles to get respect in the U.S. though, especially in areas like here in New York City.
And isn't that something? I mean, like I said, we've talked about it before. They've got to make it more accessible.
Yeah.
They need to get away from this whole Apple TV thing. And they need to really look at this and make it more marketable for people. Hopefully even more interest is sparked with the World Cup. I can't see that it's going to be a bad thing. I think it's going to be a positive thing for the MLS. But listen, I mean, they need to do a better job making it accessible, and they need to do a better job marketing. They really do.
True. So, and I think they're getting there, little by little.
I do
see where the league was, say, 30 years ago, even 15 years ago.
Right.
Here in the New York City area, the Metro Stars used to play at Giant Stadium, and it looked really bad. And at the time, it was still Giant Stadium. So, and it looked bad. But then you see, obviously, NYCFC is getting a new stadium with Etihad Park. Chicago's getting a new stadium as well, which is nice because, again, when you look at basically Soldier Field, you can very clearly see it as a football field they're playing on. So they get their own sense of identity there, which is huge. So there is growth as it's happening right now. So there's a lot to be fired up about when it comes to this league and what's going on and where it's going.
Yeah, I agree.
The Apple TV deal, I think, was a fail. In a lot of ways, I think the Lionel Messi deal was a fail, but I understand why they rolled the dice on that. I'm not blaming them for that, for either one, frankly. It's just sometimes things just don't work out the way you want them to. Yeah. And if you look at Apple TV now, if you look at it on the top, and you go to Apple TV, it's funny. I'll do it this way for camera. You have like the Apple TV, like all the shows they got, like Severance and Ted Lasso, etc. And then from there, it's Formula One, and then over here is MLS. They moved MLS to the side because Formula One is now their new baby. Right. And when you scroll down on the front screen, you'll see Formula One and F1 is much higher up the ladder than MLS is.
Right. like I said, they need to make it more accessible. You need to have, I don't have Apple TV. I got to be honest with you. I don't have it. I rely on the games that are on FS1. You
Mhm.
know, that are and they got maybe a handful of games every month on there, and I rely on listening to it on Sirius XM. I had Apple TV when they had the MLS package where you didn't have to buy the whole thing. You could just
Sure.
buy the MLS package. Loved it. They did away with that. Now you have my problem is I have too many subscriptions to things. I got
Common
Peacock,
problem nowadays.
right. I got Peacock to watch the English Premier League. I just got too many and I just don't want to add another one. So
No, I get it.
for me, I get it, I get it other means, but and sometimes it's not the greatest, but I still am able to follow it pretty good and tune into the games that I want to tune into via Fubo or Sirius XM, which Sirius XM does a good job of they have a lot of premier games on there. Obviously, you're listening to it. Soccer's not the greatest sport to listen to on the radio,
True.
but I still say SiriusXM needs to have an MLS channel. They need to break away from the 157 FC, and they need to have their own designated MLS channel, in my opinion.
Well, if I had to guess, I'd say it probably ends up being a YouTuber that goes over there.
Yeah,
Working
exactly.
might be MLS moves.
Yeah, right. No, yeah, you're right.
And listen, if you want to give me something on Sirius, fine. I'm down for that. We'll talk numbers, we'll talk advertising, we'll talk all that kind of stuff.
Right.
My wife is like, basically, if there's money involved, do it. I don't care.
Do it.
It's midnight to 4 a.m. Fine. Do you have to be in your underwear? Fine.
I gotcha.
But I think in this case, you're dead right on this, especially with the growth of the league and where things are going on that. Having a dedicated Sirius channel, it could really work out well.
Well, it's just too much. You've got 156. You're covering so much. You're covering just and sometimes some of these leagues get neglected. And I mean, there's a lot of English Premier League coverage on FC 157,
mm-hmm.
and the weekends usually are designated for MLS, but it needs to be. They just need their own channel, in my opinion.
Fair.
So,
all right. So, I figure that's when we'll move on to the next thing we got. This came down the pipeline just very recently. In fact, actually yesterday. Speaking of the MLS in this case, the MLS Cup schedule has come out, and it's a little different from years prior. What I find interesting about this right out of the chute is the fact that, for starters, they're having the MLS Cup final on a Friday night. They're going to be running this one on December 18th because of the World Cup. They're going to be running it literally 1 week before Christmas, which is a first for me. I don't remember the last time I ever saw anything even close to that. Let me put that over there. So you have the MLS Cup final on a Friday. The wild card is going to be literally exactly 1 month prior, starting on November 18th. Followed by the best of 3 from the 20th to December 2nd, the conference semis, the conference finals, and then, like I said, a Friday night MLS Cup final, which I personally think is a smart, clever idea. But I want to get your thoughts on that before I go into my thoughts a little further.
Well, I think they looked at it like this. They want to look at the postseason, and they want 30 days of uninterrupted action, right? That's what they're looking at doing on this. The fact that you're having it on the 18th on a Friday, you're going to have basically corner the market, and from that you're not going to be competing with, I know in recent past they were competing with the Army Navy game, some of the playoffs. Friday night, I think aside from maybe some I don't think high school football would even be. That would be wrapped up by that time, So I think
that specific locations like Texas, anyway.
Correct. Yeah. So I think that they want to look at it like it's a good day, it's a good night to have it, and like I said, you're gonna have 30 days of uninterrupted action that culminates with the MLS Cup final on a Friday, December 18th, 2026. I think it's good. I think it's a very, very good move on their part.
they're learning as they go. And like you said, in this case, the uninterrupted is the big part of this, because last year there was the international break. So you had 2 weeks off between playoff matches. And for a team like, in this case, I'm going to use Philadelphia as a prime example. They had the extra added week off because they were the Supporters Shield winner. And we've seen this in the past. When you have a 3-week break between matches, it hurts your team. It happened to the New England Revolution back in 2021. It happened last year to the Philadelphia Union because they had the 3-week break. You come out of the gate sluggish. So in this case here, having a match every single week can keep the schedule the players want. Now, one slight thing I found interesting. Go ahead. Actually, no, go ahead first.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say one slight thing. I'll be quick on this. Is because of the fact it's on a Friday, there will be a little bit less of a break. So this could actually benefit whatever home team it is too, especially if you have a team like say LA, and then you have a lower ranked team from a point perspective. We'll say New York or Miami. They're going to have to travel across country for something like this, which means they're not going to be as rested, meaning whatever team is the higher rank and gets the home field advantage for the MLS Cup final is going to have a little bit of a benefit because it's on slightly shorter rest.
Very, very good point. I didn't even think of that. That's a very good point. What I look at is your casual MLS fan. Your fan that's kind of on the fence. You have in recent years you've had the break, and they may have lost interest. Now you're going to have, like I said, 30 days of uninterrupted action, and that casual fan may say, oh yeah, okay, look at the upcoming schedule on TV for sport. Oh, okay, yeah, every week till the final, you have something going on. You have so. I think it's a good thing. I think they made a really good decision on this one.
Yeah. And because, like you mentioned this too, from a sports perspective and a regular TV perspective, Friday night, I'm going to say 8 p.m. because I'm going to take a best shot at that. I could totally see something like this being on Fox like it has been in the past. Mm-hmm. Friday night at 8 is a good time slot for like a weekly soccer match or anything like this.
Perfect.
Statistically and historically speaking, when it comes to regular broadcast television, Friday night is where a TV show goes to die. With the exception of rare things like you had Blue Bloods run for 14 seasons over there, certain things like that. That was the staying power of Tom Selleck mostly. But typically, broadcast execs will put a show on a Friday night, and that's what kills the whole thing. So you don't have that competition from a TV perspective as well. So it's going to be beneficial on that regard as well. On top of it, no competition, and ironically, the last MLS Cup final in December will be on a Friday.
Right, and I think to your point, I think they factored that in. I don't think this was just like there was no, it wasn't a coincidence that they made it like this. I think they factored all that in, and I think it's, like I said, I think it's a good call on them.
Sure. And the only other thing, like I said, in this case that I think is huge is the fact that there is, like you said, no break.
Right.
The breaks hurt teams in a lot of cases like this. And granted, it's a long schedule. The slight concern, because of the fact that it's going to be a little bit later than it has been in the past, is you're going to be looking at, if you're Don Garber, you're looking for LA versus Miami from a different reason on top of just Son versus Messi. You're looking at it from a warm weather standpoint. And Vancouver is not one of them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a soccer fan as it is, but I mean, I look at it like this: Pittsburgh doesn't have an MLS team, so I really don't have an MLS team. I'm a fan of the league. I love the league. I love watching MLS. So for me, I don't want a break in action. I want interrupted action. I want I want there to be something going on playoff wise every week until the final. I don't want a break. I don't want to break. So, and
that's, like I said, that's consistency is what's going to be necessary here too. Yeah. So is the league perfect? No, but it seems to be learning. It's learning from its mistakes. It's learning. That's the big key. If you learn from your mistakes, you can correct them. You see certain things with other sports and other networks in general where they keep making the same mistake over and over, and it hurts the brand. Here, they're like, okay, this clearly didn't work. Let's try this. Now they move the schedule, so you have the advantage of the sprint season, and then you end this in May, which, again, you would tie into this whole thing where you have no competition with anything else going on. Maybe you use the MLS Cup final in 2028, I guess. on a Friday night as well. Maybe you do that. But the league, like I said, is smart enough to adapt and learn as it goes. And that's the biggest thing overall.
Yeah. No, I think they've done a good job. I think that they really look at things and they really try to see, okay, how can we make this league better? How can we weigh, it's pros and cons. It's looking at every decision. You've got the pros and cons. You got to look at everything. I think they've made some very good decisions and things like that. They're trying to grow the league. My only I guess issue with them is they just needs to be better accessibility.
Sure.
You need to have better accessibility. That's where I think they've fallen a little bit short. But I think in everything else, I think they've done a very good job. I think they're making sensible decisions that me, and you, and well, I mean, we're fans, can get behind, things decisions we can get behind. So,
and like, in this case also, you look at this, the league, I think they've acknowledged the mistake with Apple TV. Again, initially, I thought it was a great idea. I did, but it clearly didn't match out the way it needed to.
Yeah.
But you see, it's funny because we're talking about trying to get them away from streaming while the rest of the sports are going in the direction of streaming.
Right.
The Yankees have, I think, 21 games on Amazon Prime this season.
Yeah.
Michael Kay, I'll listen to him on occasion. Michael Kay complained about the fact that he's missing out on games he used to broadcast because it's all going there. It's going to ESPN. He's got so many less games now this year because of everything going to streaming. So MLS is kind of going the opposite way, which is, I think, what soccer is trying to do as a whole.
Well, yeah, and I mean, unfortunately, you're not as established as those other leagues are. Where those other leagues can go and branch out to other platforms, and it's not going to hurt the overall brand. With the MLS, you're kind of not there yet. You're kind of the you're kind of the little brother of all the other leagues.
Sure.
So that's kind of where I look at it. They have to look at other things, but you got to get the product out there. You can't make it hard for, like I said, the casual soccer fan to be able to tune into your games. You've got to make it easier.
Sure.
And for some people like me who already have multiple subscriptions to things and don't really want to have another Apple, like I said, I get my my MLS fix through, when they do have games on Fubo. I mean, I set the MLS to just automatically record them, go back and watch them. And, most of the premier matches I listen to on Sirius XM, which isn't the same, but it's good enough for me. I know enough about soccer that when they are on the radio, I can understand what's going on. So.
All right. Perfect. It's soccer, and like I said, pure by radio. I don't know how many people really listen to it. I should find that out at some point.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't think it is either. I was just, like I said, I really was the Whitecaps versus Minnesota was kind of a match this past weekend that I had highlighted. I'm like, man, and unfortunately it wasn't on Fubo, and I'm like, okay, well, I can listen to it on Sirius XM. It's very hard to keep with all the scoring that was going on. It was very hard to keep up with that match. It was very hard to. So, but
yeah. Well, this is something that came out of the pipeline. Not sure if basically you heard about this. Fans are kind of pissed off.
Yeah.
Because the announcement was made just prior to kickoff that Lionel Messi was not going to be playing in the match against Charlotte. Now, what came down the pipeline is apparently about 80% of ticket sales were based on the expectation that Lionel Messi was going to play.
Right.
My question to you, when you see something like this and you see the fans traveling out to Charlotte, paying the tickets and all this kind of stuff, they have the expectation that Lionel Messi is going to play.
Right.
Is this something that's on the team, or is it a caveat emptor?
Well, listen, I mean, the fans ought to know you're taking a risk with the guy that's that old. Okay. I mean, you are. I mean, I look at it when back in, what was it, 2024, when they played that exhibition match in Hong Kong. You remember he sat out with a hamstring injury.
Yeah,
I think he had
a lawsuit.
Yeah. Yeah, you get 40,000 fans chanting for refunds and booing, and then it pissed a lot of people off because he played in Japan just a few days after that,
Sure.
which, pissed some people off. But listen, this guy's up in age. You should know, unfortunately, you should know that, hey, there's a chance that, he may not play. I mean, they're trying to, at this stage in his career, Inter Miami's they have a, that's another club that has to really handle a lot of these things with kid gloves, because you want this guy, you want to preserve this guy as much as possible, but you also know that, if you play him, and he knows his body, he knows everything like that. I mean, but if you continue to put him out there, obviously he's not gonna agree to being out there all the time, even if he has a slight, tweak in his hamstring, what have you, sore ankle, he's just not going to chance at this stage in his career. I don't know. Being a fan, you kind of should know that. It should kind of come. I mean, it sucks. I agree, it sucks, but people want to come out to see him. People want to come out to see him. He draws, the fans, but
we've heard this complaint before about LeBron.
Right.
So, people are, I mean, hell, I remember even Tim Duncan, people were complaining about it because they would be like, well, we paid this money. Okay. And like you said, it's a long season, but this is one of those complaints that never ends.
Yes. It's never going to end either. No, it's not. It's not going to end. I mean, in this stage in his career, if he was 10, 15 years younger, probably wouldn't be seeing this that much. I mean, there would be, I'm sure, instances where he would, back then did set out, but that was like legitimate injuries. A lot of this is like, they just don't want to take the risk. He may have a tweak and they don't want it to sideline him for 3 months. So they're being cautious. I don't know. For me, as a fan, you should know that. I mean, you should know that you should know that that's going to be a possibility. That some of these matches you've paid your ticket well in advance. There's a chance he might not play. I mean, you just, you should know that.
Yeah. I mean, I get why the fans are annoyed, but at the same time, it's on them because, again, you like you said, it's a long season. Plus, he has World Cup on top of this. Plus, he's playing from an purely MLS perspective for September, October, November, December. He's not playing right now for March and April. Now, I would presume he's probably going to play some minutes against NYCFC next week because you just want to get a little bit of, work in, not a lot, but just enough to basically keep your routine and keep your rhythm going. So weirdly enough, him not playing last week could hurt NYCFC this week.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Very, very much so. But like I said, I mean, if you're, fans ought to know that this is the potential. And a lot of these people, I'm sure, buy these tickets in advance, but you should know that. I mean, you're taking a risk by, if you're, put it this way, if you're going just to see him,
that's a different problem entirely. Yeah.
Correct.
So you're on more of, it's a ticket holder's responsibility, to accept the responsibility and the risk.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, this isn't a 28-year-old Messi. This is a guy that's that's
summer springtime no more.
Yeah, I mean, he's on the twilight end of his career. I mean, it's some people are surprised he's still even playing.
True.
A lot of people, I remember in 2022 them saying this is probably his last World Cup. So. I mean, he takes very good care of himself, but at this stage, you cannot. At this stage in your career, you have to be and like I said, any little tweak or anything you feel, you can't go out. You can't go out there because it could lead. It could lead to something else.
Yeah,
I know that. I know that being 45 years old and lift. I'm a weightlifter. I lift 5 days a week and. I know if I feel any kind of tweak in my shoulder or anything like that, I got to shut it down.
Don't push through. Yeah.
Right. So,
but I also wonder in this case, maybe he went to MLS because he knew it was a little bit lighter of a competition. Maybe he couldn't hold out on Premier League level at his age, but at MLS level, he can.
Well, and I look at it like this too. When he played in Barcelona, even PSG, anywhere he went, he was bombarded. He was just bombarded. He couldn't go out to the grocery store without just being literally bombarded. I mean, just literally. Miami, I'm sure he still does get it, but not to the extent that he had. And I think he likes that. He likes kind of, not being as noticed, though I'm sure he still gets noticed, even being in the States, but not to the extent where he was, in places, like I said, like in Barcelona or in when he played for PSG. He was
there's what, four different professional sports in Miami?
Right. Exactly.
Basketball, baseball.
Right.
The Dolphins, and then there's no no hockey over there, but you have 4 sports in that city.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think that's one of his things that he likes. We've heard he likes, kind of being able to live his life somewhat. I mean, he still gets bombarded. Don't get me wrong.
But the guy with the second largest Instagram following on the planet. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Behind, I believe, Ronaldo, but.
Yeah.
So. Yep. Nice. Okay. Fair enough. All right. So we got one more topic here. We'll wrap it up at this point. The New York Cosmos have returned to New York, kinda. Now basically,
was it Patterson, Jersey, right? Patterson, Jersey.
They're over in Patterson. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
I mean, growing up here in Jersey, the New York Cosmos, I believe remember right, they played at like Continental Airlines Arena, or it might have been even Brendan Byrne Arena back then. Pele was a big part of that, and there was an iconic part to the Cosmos until they came back, folded, and now they're giving it another shot. They had their first match over the weekend. They drew 4,099, give or take a few ticket sales. Supposedly about 500 of those ticket sales, though, came from Portland, because a lot of the fans of the Hearts of Pine from Portland took the 6-ish hour drive, I'm going to say ballpark, all the way down to Patterson to catch their team win, I guess 3-1 against the Cosmos. Now, there were some problems I did find out about from a press perspective. Originally, they didn't have Wi-Fi or power for the press, and the press box itself was actually across the street in the senior center. So so there was a couple of burps that are going to have to work their way out a little bit here. But all the fact that the team is back, it is nice from a historical standpoint. I personally don't know how well it's going to work over in Patterson. Hinchcliffe is not a good draw. It doesn't have good parking situation there. It's going to be a little tough to get to, especially for public transit. I've seen this issue because the New Jersey Jackals of the Frontier League also played Hinchcliffe, and they're not drawn too well over there either. Probably some of it came down to budget and numbers. I'll give it that from a rent perspective. But thoughts if you got him on the Cosmos coming back?
Well, I mean, this is like their third iteration, I think.
Yeah.
Obviously it's a staple with the history, in American soccer. I mean, obviously we know the whole history and everything like that. And plus, from my understanding, Hinchcliffe's a pretty historic stadium as well.
From the Negro League, correct? Yes.
Yeah. So
they've done a lot of work to renovate it too. I'll give it that.
Yeah. So I mean, and I heard there's a women's team to follow as well. Is that true?
There is, I believe, yes.
Yeah.
Actually, speaking of, before I forget, Gotham FC has a big announcement today at Citi Field. We're recording this, by the way, before once this goes live. Actually, the announcement will already been made, but we're kind of curious a little bit what that Gotham FC announcement's going to be. Why Citi Field, or what's going on over there? We don't know yet.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, we'll see. Like on previous versions, I mean, hopefully they're trying to aim the focus on developing local young talent. I would think would be their number one. At least if I was in their brass, I would that would be my number one thing. I don't know. It's a you're reviving, like I said, one of the most famous names in American soccer history. You're attempting to revive it. And I just, I don't know. I think, I don't know. The thing I look at too is, that schedule, you're conflicting with NYCFC. You're conflicting with Red Bull as well. I mean, and I just don't know. I just don't know if they can sustain, that. You know what I'm saying? I just don't know if they can sustain that. So.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, in this case, there's some concerns there, and also the same concern that exists even on a higher level like MLS. You're overshadowed by whatever Aaron Judge and Juan Soto are doing. Right. Obviously the New York Giants are making big moves with Harbaugh and everything, the additions they've made. So there's a lot of intrigue there. The Nets suck. The Devils suck, which breaks my heart a little bit. Rangers, but there's so much saturation here that you see a Cosmos team in Jersey, in Patterson, and you have concerns from a perspective of how well are they going to draw. Right. I'm rooting for them to do well, but rumors have it they're not doing well on ticket sales. They pulled in 4,100 for their series opener, and about an eighth of that was Portland fans. Right. So what happens 3 months down the line? You covered at USL. You know what the attendance is going to be like. Season opener versus 10 games into the season.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, they've got to find a way to boost the local, fan base, if you will. I mean, it is, obviously one of the, it's an epicenter for soccer, but they need to take advantage of that. But it's very tough. I mean, it's very tough. Like I said, you're competing with a lot. You're competing with the Red Bulls. You're competing with NYCFC. You're competing with Gotham as well.
Brooklyn FC too just premiered too.
Brooklyn FC,
a little further away, but still.
Yeah,
and I mean, got a USL team in there too.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know necessarily if you can, I mean, like I said, it's one of the famous names in American soccer history, but I don't think alone I'm not sure if relying on that alone is going to be able to get you to where you want to be.
Not if you want to attract the kids audience where, when your grandfather remembers the Cosmos.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, no, that's my point. Yeah, exactly. So, and this is the third iteration. I
mean, I was a kid when it folded, and I'm 50. So, the Pele era is not, I mean, we'll tack on 20 years. Not going to say 40, but 20, past that. Then they remember that era. But for me, I barely remember it as a kid, but the Cosmos name, good call. Am I annoyed a little bit that they're playing in New Jersey and calling themselves New York? Yeah, but that's always my beef regardless. I got that beef with Gotham. I got that beef with New York.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a legitimate beef. I got you.
Yeah, you want to call yourselves New York? That's fine. Throw a little NJ in there just for love, just to remind people that World Cup is at least doing that right. They're saying New York, New Jersey. I can live with that. Just throw a little love to my home turf where you're physically playing.
Exactly. No, I agree with that.
But all right, so I think I'm good at this point. Do you have anything else?
Yeah, no, I think I'm good. The NWSL kicked off. That was so we'll see what happens there. I tell you what, I enjoy watching NWSL. I don't know about you, but I think I think we're going to have a lot of there's some expansion going on there, and I think it's going to be a good season for them.
Yeah, actually, I talked to Nick Cushing the other day too about because he had his first game with Denver because Denver Summit had their premiere too.
Yeah, and Boston Legacy.
I talked to Nick Cushing via LinkedIn. That's weird to me, but it works.
Yeah. So,
all right, perfect. So, coming up next week, tentatively scheduled, we'll have Blake Amy, who is the play-by-play voice for Sporting KC, talking about what's going on with that team. The addition of David Lee, former NYCFC sporting director, now having gone over to Sporting KC. So we'll talk a little bit to him about what's going on with the league and the West, like everything we talked about. In the meantime, though, I'm Scott Churchson. That's Mr. Bill Akins. Thanks as always for tuning in. Let us know what you think about the stuff we talked about. Does NYCFC need a striker? And is it Lionel Messi's fault that basically people paid tickets and for games he didn't appear in? Anyway, take care. And until next time, stay awesome.